Proverbs chapter 20 and verse 13 says, "Love not sleep, lest thou come to poverty. Open thine eyes, and thou shalt be satisfied with bread." Hi, my name is Charles Vance. I'm along with Chief Strategist Terry Sacka, and you are watching The Wealth Transfer. Terry, good to see you.
Good.
I don't think that Solomon's necessarily talking about physically going to sleep. No. He's just talking about us just kind of getting in a dazed state where everything's okay, a dreaming state.
Weren't we in that daze before 2008?
Yep, definitely.
Everyone was on this euphoria thinking real estate was this and this big pop in the bubble. But welcome to Wealth Transfer, where we have biblical principles, global economics, and how to protect and preserve your family's wealth. We've been talking about the BRIC nations and the impact the BRIC nations are going to have on the actual dollar. Why that means something to you in the dollar. And I'm here to explain it from the side of financial. I am an accredited asset management specialist. I was a financial advisor at A.G. Edwards. I'm now purely and simply in refining and minting. We do have multiple offices. Our actual refining minting facilities are down in Florida, so we have our headquarters there. But we do have our main administration and servicing center is in North Carolina. So don't be alarmed that we're in multiple places, but we are here to provide the education and the information, and I'm here to kind of give that side of the story, and Charles is here for some of the others.
Well, I'm a pastor for 20 plus years right now, also a businessman for that period of time. Prior to that, a businessman for somewhere around 20 years, owned and operated a construction company. We built upscale homes in this community, in this area, and small businesses. We owned a retail store, had several different investments, different businesses that were going on. I find it extremely necessary to talk to the body of Christ about getting their finances in order. And probably that was one of the things that stirred both of our hearts to get this program up and running. I'm a television producer as well, have produced somewhere around 6,000 to 7,000 television shows over the years, and felt that it was just absolutely necessary for the information that Terry has to get to the general public. He happened to be a guest on a week of our shows back 4 or 5 years ago, and it just kind of stirred something in both of us, and we sort of prodded him along, and finally came to, how long have we been on with Wealth Transfer?
Almost 2 years, year and a half, yeah.
Nationally.
Yep.
So we're just trying to get this message to as many people as possible.
Yeah, because we were on Thursday nights, 10 p.m. at CTN, and now we are on 10 a.m. on Saturday, which is wonderful because we're trying to reach a broader audience. We just want the information out there because we do know 2008 was just the beginning. We all know what happened in 2008. We're here to tell you the reckoning is coming, that we're going to have additional troubles. We're on a subject matter now of BRIC nations because the BRIC nations are attacking the dollar dominance. China's leading the way with Russia. It's not by accident we're at war with Russia in the Ukraine. We're going to get more in detail on that in a few weeks as we talk about the petrodollar. Actually, we'll hopefully start next week. And so you'll kind of get a better understanding of why. But the BRIC nations are leading the world away from the dollar. And as they lead the people away from the dollar, your retirement is at stake. Inflation, the cost of goods, the cost of services. And I contend what happened in 2008 is going to be minor compared to what's getting ready to come.
Real quickly, to catch up with people, and by the way, people can watch this program on demand on your website.
Cornerstone Asset Metals and the Wealth Transfer Archive page. It is updated weekly, so the show tonight and the show Saturday morning will be posted that day after the program. So at the very top will be the new show, and then down below is a library of the other programs. So if anyone, if you know people who do not have satellite, you could tell them to go to the website and the archive page and to a certain subject matter if you think it touches their heart. But the most important thing is we just want the body of Christ to be prepared. We have been getting warning signs prophetically throughout the ministries. Get my people ready. And we are trying to get prepared because what is getting ready to happen, we have never seen before. We will never see again. I believe it's a global reset of currencies. I believe it really has some prophetic side to it, as well as some real practical, just cycle times where the dollar's day is going to change, and we need to be prepared for this.
Terry, the last couple of weeks we've been talking about the BRICS nation.
Yes.
A lot of people don't really have any comprehension when they hear the word brick. They think about a building brick. That's an acronym for 5 countries that have come together, nations that have come together. And instead of using a U.S. currency for their international trade as an international monetary system, they have determined to begin to use their own currencies to trade back and forth with one another. Who are those?
Now remember, we all loved it at first, right? We were getting Chinese products and goods. Just about everything in your house probably says China.
I still like Chinese stuff.
I get it, but
I think my phone is made in China.
We have built a dominant powerhouse over there, more than people realize. They own our debt. We don't own theirs. And what's happened is the Chinese have built what we call, now they're part of the BRICS, which is Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa made this agreement. They're not using the dollar anymore. And this is really troublesome because we've printed trillions of dollars over the last 5 years. We are in more debt now than we've ever been, and any country's ever been in the history of the world. We owe $30 trillion just to pay the interest on our debt. And we owe $60 trillion just to look after the baby boomers for Social Security, Medicare. We are in a pinnacle point. We're like a rubber band, and it's getting very tested. The Chinese, because we built the manufacturing base over there, have then reestablished what we call an ancient trade route known as the Silk Road Revival. Now, I want to show this image again just to recap from last week. The Silk Road Revival is China's industrial complex in trade route control. Remember, China is the largest trading country in the nation. They just surpassed the United States last year. And the red on the bottom is the shipping lanes, as you notice how it wraps around. And remember, that region of the world is almost well over half the population. And at the top there in the jagged lines is the railroad system built all the way through Russia, one of the partners, into Europe. Now that image, as you're looking at it, the reason it's so important, just this year alone, 40,000 ships have entered and left the Chinese ports in the first half of the year. That's that red line. 40,000 of them. As a head of a huge and technologically advanced fleet, the Chinese have cemented and have put it down that they are the shipping leader. Then the top part there is the 11,000-kilometer international railway linking China to Europe, commonly referred to as the New Silk Road. This is the message China's trying to send to the West is very clear. They're recreating the trade route that defined its dominance in global trade and which would enmesh the entire Eastern Hemisphere into a massive trade zone hardly needs to be clarified. You can take that off. Why is that so important to us? Because they have cemented the ability to not only build and create goods and services, they now are earning allegiance from these other nations, Russia, India. Now remember, Russia and India alone are absolutely huge as far as global, and the Middle East. And we're going to get into that because remember, the world's largest refinery in the world is being built in Saudi Arabia. We used to be the world's #1 for Saudi Arabia for oil. Now it's the Chinese. And you've got it. The Chinese built that refinery. So they're cementing this trade route known as the ancient Silk Road route and the dominance of that. Now, why is that important? We are weaker as a nation. Where are our jobs in the United States? That's right, they're overseas. And the age group of males 25 to 45 years old, the most viable workforce, 62 million of them are unemployed. And yet we have advocates of an open border to bring in others to a nation for jobs that we that live here can't even get. So we're in a very confused state in our history that really has to be reckoned with.
Would it just be conjecture or supposition as to why other countries like China are producing, or is it actually because of the cost of the production is so much less than in the United States of America?
It was the cost of the production, and what I think really was the design is we were using them to build the globalists were really doing it to build cheap goods and services for the world.
Gotcha.
But what happened is we got out of control. we have lost our dominance, and our dollar has lost 40% of its value. And why that's so important is right now, we didn't catch this. Last 40 years, we've been in a dollar standard. We've been happy times. America's been filled with goods. We eat, we drink, we have beautiful products and services, beautiful clothes and cars. We didn't see it coming. But the fact is, in the last 10 years alone, this has lost 40% of its value. Buying power, the ability to buy something. Do we have to describe, which we're going to do in the future, in detail about inflation, school costs, books, gasoline, clothes, food? $100,000 10 years ago is only worth $60,000 buying power today. $100,000 in this 10 years ago is worth $500,000 today. So if you would have just been putting this in your IRA and retirement account 10 years ago, physically, you own it, not the stock market. We've been fooled. Let's not be fooled any longer. Then you would be worth $500,000, not $60,000. It's really important to get. So before we continue, for those that do have IRAs and 401ks to protect, inheritance money that's coming in, get information, get educated. Give us a call, register on the website. We'll be more than happy to send this out. It's a global economic data. It's data on why the dollar is attacked and the 11 standards the Chinese are using to come against the dollar, and how simply and easy it is to roll over your current IRA into a solid physical silver precious metals IRA. Because if you knew the level of manipulation in the silver market, if you knew in the Bible how God made it very clear silver was his and not this abomination of dishonest weight and measure in the dollar, you would know why that storage of your long-term retirement in this is going to be essential for survival in the body of Christ.
Terry, when I was in the construction business, it was not unusual to hire someone, and if someone was aggressive, they would learn the business. And after a while, you would see them leave the business, and all of a sudden they were your competitor.
Yes.
And we have trained people in other countries
That's exactly
how
right.
to build
That's
and
right.
operate. We've moved our not only our computerization, but our
manufacturing
industrialization
That's right.
to other countries, trained them how to do it, thinking, well, we're making money off of these people.
We thought we
it.
also had control.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
And they have been watching all along how to do it, and they've decided, why should we let them have a cut when we can take the whole piece of pie?
You know, I have a friend that has a shipping business. He actually ships odd things, big stuff though. And he would tell me that the Chinese were so brilliant, they would come over and get an old sugar factory, let's say. They tear it down bolt by bolt, piece by piece, package it up, and sent it over to China and reassembled it. And this is common. And so Charles is exactly right. We thought we were in control. But because we're a debtor nation, they are taking the global economy collapses in 2008 was not an anomaly. This was a rising problem that just bursted, and I'll have to say they stopped it temporarily. In the last 5 years, they've been printing trillions of dollars to try to make it the appearance that everything's better, but I'm telling you it's not. All the numbers and data you're seeing on TV, besides this show, and the mainstream is false and misleading. They're not telling the truth. And I get it because it's about moving money. But they're taking advantage of the weakness of the West. And who's they? The BRICS, the East, is taking advantage of the weakness of the West because of our debt trouble. Don't think Europe is better than, remember 2 years ago they almost collapsed in a lot of ways. These nations in Italy and Greece and Spain and Portugal, they're still in a lot of trouble. They just created bonds to buy bonds to buy bonds, which is fake to buy fake to fake. The world knows this, specifically the East, the BRICS, and they're plotting because, come on, they don't like us. They never really did. We dominated them. Ask our older military people and they'll tell you when they've been over there. So they would love to see us demise. They just want to do it when they're prepared to assume the role, which unbelievably they're getting there.
This is a kicking the can down the road scenario.
Well, we've been kicking the can for a while,
Well,
yes.
Yeah, you know, Kelly and I, my wife and I, are very interested in some of these shows that you'll watch that are Ponzi schemes that people work. And we sit and watch these shows and we think, how long can that guy do that
Right.
and keep getting away with it? It goes for a year and it goes for another year, and you think, how long can that guy keep doing that? And there is always a reckoning day. And there will have to be a reckoning day when you keep, we used to say this when I was a kid, you rob Peter to pay Paul.
Yeah.
You can only rob Peter long enough to pay Paul until Peter gets satisfied again, dissatisfied, and then you got to rob Paul to pay Peter.
You know, Charles, and the thing is, what we don't know is because it's taken so long, we in the body of Christ and the American people haven't caught on. But we actually been doing this since World War II.
Well, it seems like that a generation grows through these things when people look at history, and then and maybe at the conclusion of a generation, I mean, obviously there's people at various ages, but it only seems to take place like once in a generation, and the next generation's lost it.
Now that we've already, and we've done that now. And we've done that now. We are in oblivion now. We're in what I call a normalcy bias, which is intelligent people are in denial because they've never seen it, or they don't believe it's going to happen. I'm telling you, America, Charles, is in a normalcy bias state.
I believe that.
Since World War II, we were doing this, and we had in 1971 the reckoning. The world realized it, took all the gold back, and gave us this currency, this dollar note. The reckoning took place in 71, but we were pretty brilliant, and we converted away from gold into paper, and were able to withstand control and power for another 40 years. Unfortunately, the reckoning is over. Since 2008, basically the skirt dropped, and we are exposed in a way we cannot recoup from. And the next one is coming quickly, and the BRICS are hot on the trail.
I had just gotten into the construction business in 1973, and I believe it was 73 when Paul Volcker, which was the president of the Federal Reserve.
Yeah, when he raised interest rates.
He raised interest rates. The prime interest rate was 21%. You couldn't borrow, nobody borrowed money. You didn't buy a car, you didn't buy a house. The construction business completely stopped. I mean, overnight. So the reckoning was that this can't keep going on. Something's got to interrupt it and stop it.
Here's the problem. Back then,
it created demise for a bunch of people.
A bunch of people. Because I remember I was a little kid. You were older than me, and I was.
Hey, hello.
But I remember, and for those that do remember the 70s, we cannot do that this time because then we had 300 billion in currency. Today we have trillions. Then the baby boomers were just beginning. Today they're retiring, going on these unfunded programs. Then we were the world's largest creditor nation, loan money. We were the hot shots. Today we're the largest debtor nation. We're weak because of our debt, and we've been printing trillions over the last few years, and they know it because the BRICS have been on fire for this. And the reckoning is coming. It is coming really quick.
I've had people ask me, because I've sat in groups of people and talked with people about this kind of thing going on. And I remember a gentleman said, so what are we going to do about it? And he's done nothing about it. That was probably 2 years ago. He's done absolutely nothing because his mentality was, well, there's nothing we can do. But there is something we can do.
See, this
whole thing with wealth transfer is getting positioned so that wealth comes to us and it's not taken away from us.
Now, it was taken away in 2008. And
not to everyone.
No, definitely not. Because some
people got rich.
Those who were in this have been made exceptionally wealthier because this has been losing value. And so it's a way of diversifying yourself. And what we're trying to say is let's be diversified in God's money, which is things of the earth, because it has been moving. And what we're trying to say is it's coming back again. It's like a full circle. It went around, we're printing, and it's coming back. And the reason we're talking about the BRICS and why it's so important to you is that they're not slowing down. Matter of fact, they're rising. And this whole war in Ukraine is a big part of it because building the Silk Road revival as China did, they've secured the ability to trade globally and now dominate. So, I mean, as an example, let's go to this image 11, which is the World 2014 GDP consensus. Now, this is what the world thinks this year right now is going on. And this is the weakness I'm showing you. Look at that. That's
Now,
the consensus of the world and what they believe is going on. That
what's the word consensus actually
means
mean?
consensus is what they all collectively believe.
Okay, all right.
That chart shows you right now today, the world believes we are in the worst condition that we have been in growth, in estimated growth, in a very long time.
No, it's the United States of America.
No, that's the world now.
They think the world is in the worst shape.
Because of the United States in control and the money printing and, and so forth. But that now the reason that's important is the media is showing you everything's okay. People are saying, oh, let's get back into the stock market, let's do this. I'm saying watch out, because it's called a dead cat bounce. There's so many different things we can put to you.
It's called a what?
I shouldn't have said that. Dead cat bounce is a term in stock markets when everything looks like it's going and then it really goes back up and it looks like everything's rocking and rolling, but then it just crashes again. We're going to have it again, because that consensus alone, global consensus, shows you nobody believes what we're being told on our media, that everything is getting better. And for those that have IRAs, God bless you if you've made back to break even a 2008 drop. Unfortunately, the inflation has eroded tremendously on it, so it's not quite what you think in value. But get properly diversified now that you're back. Get your IRAs, your retirement account, into a hard, tangible asset, because the next collapse that's coming is going to be ferocious compared to 2008. And for those that are in this particular asset, which is counter to paper currency, will see explosive valuations. I mean explosive, and you will be protected and preserved for the future. So for those that have those IRA accounts, retirement accounts, give us a call, register on the website. We will send out this package loaded with economic data that supports what we're saying, loaded with terms and conditions that the Chinese are setting in the dollar demise, and how easy and simply it is to roll over those IRAs into precious metals so you can control your asset for the future for your family and your standard of living. Because what we just showed you in 2000, or the image there of 2014 consensus, the world doesn't believe we're getting better. And here's one that'll really, now set this solid. You think everything's okay. I'm telling you, it's smoke and mirrors. Get ready. Look at this next image.
Let me ask this for you.
Sure.
Why does the federal system, the federal banking system, keep trying to make you think it's okay?
Because without money, without you spending your currency, the economy will break down and collapse.
So it has to keep moving.
So they need to convince you to spend your money. If you remember the very first stimulus we had in 2008, when they printed like $150 billion and said, please go out, we're going to give a free check to everyone. Remember? Spend it is what they said. They need us to spend currency in order to keep the system going. This is known as a deficit spending nation. Study the history on the 7 stages of empire, you'll understand what I mean. We're in the 6th stage, and when the world loses confidence of the currency, which is the 7th stage, the empire collapses. I happen to contend we're near that stage. But they need you to spend money. That's why the media, the mass media, is spinning untruthfully the numbers to make you think things are okay. It's not about an individual company. It's about the globe. The world says you just saw no. Look at the next image. This is called the Baltic Dry Index. Now, what is that? The Baltic Dry Index is the index that measures shipping containers moving around the world. Look at how that has absolutely collapsed. Look where it is right now in the bottom right corner. Look where that index is. See where it started up there at 9,000? Now that was in 2008, mind you. Look at since 2008 when the economies were seemingly normal. Look where it is now. If everything is getting better, why is that Baltic Index at the very bottom of the rung? Why? Because goods are not shipping around the world.
Does that mean people are not buying as much stuff?
Absolutely, it means people are not buying.
They're not using currency, and it's slowing down the movement.
Yes, look, you're seeing it right there. Okay. You can take that off. That image tells you the truth of the global economy. I didn't make that up. Look at this next one. This is another Baltic Dry Index image. Look at that one. That one shows you, that one's right here, right now, from now it goes back to 1986. We all remember 1986, I believe, when we went into a big recession. But back in 1986, and then you can see how we spiked in 2008 there, that big line. Look where we're at today.
So people in 2008...
Leave that up there, because this is, if you think that the market is just ignoring this, think again. The bonds, now that one right there shows you we have returned back to depressive conditions in shipping. Now, and if you think that's bad, let me just go to one more real quick before you say that. The bonds of the French largest worldwide shipping firm are tumbling. Go to the next image. This is France's largest shipping company. Look at the bonds on that, collapsing. If the world economy was getting better, why are these statistics showing other than? So you can take that off too if you wish.
All this amounts to is people have started holding on to their currency rather than keeping it in circulation buying. People were buying like crazy in 2008 prior to the market collapsing. And it makes everything look as if everything's wonderful, as long as people keep borrowing and spending, borrowing and spending, borrowing and spending. But people get afraid when something starts messing up in the system.
More than that, they're afraid because most average people know something's wrong. They know something's coming. And we're here to warn the body of Christ. You know, the Lord's made it very clear to many in the kingdom, get my people ready. Those images you just saw prove the global economy not only is not getting better, it's actually worse. And here's the worst part of that. We've printed trillions and trillions of these.
No, we're trying to bail out people that owe stuff, especially the government.
Oh, I know.
By printing, by the Federal Reserve printing this money.
They bailed out the banking system is what they did.
Yeah, and the government gives them bonds for that. They buy bonds, which is just an IOU.
Well, and here's the part that this kind of wraps up this whole series on BRICS. The Eastern nations know that the United States and Europe in the West are so heavy in debt that we are in serious trouble and viability. That's why the Greeks, you saw the images the year before, they know we're really in a lot of trouble financially because of our debts. They're building this empire in the East that is going to challenge the dominance of the dollar, and there's a catalyst that's going to take place that's going to hit the dollar's premier dominance overnight. We're going to continue next week and for a few weeks on about the petrodollar and what that means to you. But know that the BRIC nations of Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa have already forged the routes and agreements and have cemented the relationships. They're challenging the dollar as we speak today. Get your retirement protected, get your IRAs protected, your 401ks, register on the website, give us a call. We will send out this package loaded with the data we're talking about, how simply and easy it is to roll over to a precious metals IRA. Don't be caught in this when it happens. Be caught in what God has given us. God bless you, and just know that if you make Jesus Christ the center of your life, He will set you free. God bless you, and we'll see you next week.
Don't forget that you can watch these programs on demand 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on your personal computer, your smartphone, or your tablet by going to Cornerstone Asset Metals. And don't forget that we're on this same time every week right here on this station. Tell someone about it. We'll see you next week for the Wealth Transfer.